Every little thing I see. So I headed through the streets. Got it in the mail. Got sent me a postcard. Says that we can't pay. Never even knew how much I paid the dues. The life that I have lived. There's nothing left to lose. Every little thing, every little thing I said. I told you not to listen to voices in your head.
All right, Phil, we are live on my room show. Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me.
So, just before we're going live, and this is what I want to ask. You said, like, right now, there's not a lot going on because of the pandemic and everything.
That's true.
And you haven't been playing a lot, but you've been doing a lot of live streaming yourself.
Correct. Yes. On the weekends.
So I want to just start there so people know that might be tuning into this, get that information out right away. So if they want to see more of what you're doing, they'll know about that. So tell me a little bit about your show you're doing.
Well, I do a show. I kind of settled on a 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. It's this in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays. I found that I had a lot of people like to tune in that live in Italy and Germany and France. So 11 a.m. is why we're doing it, because it's 8 o'clock in the evening for them. So they're just about getting ready to go to bed. I was doing it around 3 and they're going, I have to wake. They had to get up in the middle of the night to watch me. I didn't even know I had an audience, but I got it after last year. I spent a lot of time out in Europe and I gathered an audience from that, and that's great. But what I do on my show is I always have a theme, and I either do songs, like lately I've been doing songs from my own record, but I started out the whole series with doing the thing that everybody was doing on Facebook, was talking about the 10 most influential albums that they knew of when they were growing up or whatever. And I posted them, and then what I did was I did a Facebook Live every day of a song from those records. And some of the records were really difficult, like Switched on Bach was a really hard one to do. But I did it. I had my little mini Moog, and I had another little thing, and I did 2 keyboards, and I stressed for about, I didn't even sleep the night before. I was so worried about it. Because it's just,
Well, I wanted to ask you. So I've looked at a couple of those in your room you got there. I mean, how many keyboards and what's going on in your room? You've got how many different accordions and keyboards and stuff in your room there?
Well, I got quite a few. I mean, basically, I'm living out my fantasy dream when I was a kid and watching Keith Emerson on TV. So of course I had to have, the Hammond B3, which is what that right there, and the accordions is something I picked up later. Oh, there I am. Yeah, this is one of my accordions, my Honer. I have another one over there. I have a toy piano. I have some other keyboards on the side. I have a little toy piano under there. Oh, you can't see there.
Yeah.
And
the red one is a toy piano.
That's a toy piano. I just played that on a movie called what was it called? Something. Oh, what about Dad? No. The War with Grandpa. That's what it was called. Yes, and there was lots of toy piano. I did a movie, and it was oh gosh, who was the guy who was really big cavalcade of stars? I can't remember. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, is in it. So cool. But unfortunately it never came out, because now the movie business, like the record business, is not what it used to be. And now a lot of times movies are shot for millions and millions of dollars, and then they only come out in Europe, or they only come out straight to, Netflix or something like that. So I don't think I've ever seen the movie. I don't know how it came out, but I had a lot of fun doing it. But that was the toy piano I used back there. But cool. Yeah, I like to keep myself surrounded by keyboards. I have a clavinet up here above and I have a mini Moog. I have pretty much one of everything. When I was growing up, I said I was going to get one, and I did. And I don't have enough room to hold everything in, but my wife didn't like that.
I heard a story that the mini Moogs were really rare, and people were paying a lot of money for those in good condition.
Yes, yes. So, well, it depends what you mean by a lot of money. Um, Unfortunately, lately they started recreating them, and then it brought the price down a little bit. But a good one in good condition like mine is actually, it can fetch, I don't know, like $6,500, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, or up to 8 maybe or
yeah,
something.
up to 8. And I do have the sweet one. There's models that have better oscillators. There's little sound makers for the mini Moog, and mine is one of the early ones that has the better oscillators. So I'm pretty happy. Sounds great.
Yeah. So the tour that you were doing though in Europe, who was that with?
Oh, that was with Kiefer Sutherland, who's known mostly as an actor. He's a very amazing actor. Of course, he comes from, his father was an amazing legend. You know, Donald Sutherland is an amazing legend. Still does movies at the age of, I think he's 88 or something ridiculous. He's incredible. And Kiefer has always done music, but he's done so much acting that he never had time to pursue the music career. So about 5 years ago, he told his agent that he was going to work on music more, and that's what he's doing. All last year, we went to Europe, and we did very well there. He had the #1 country record in Europe and England. Although I wouldn't really call it country the way that we call it country out here in America. It's more like Americana, which is an amalgamation of pop and country roots and rock and roll music.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, there's two things that made me think about is before we were going live, I was trying to figure out this pocket of music that that you kind of play in, and one that I'm sort of familiar with. And I listen to a little bit, but I'm not all that familiar with. And then the amount of touring you did in Europe and all of the followers that you've gained from that. So, there's kind of like two questions I wanted to ask you. Is that where all the touring you did in Europe, where you're finding all the people tuning into you on your weekend shows?
Yes, almost exclusively. They're writing things, they're writing comments the whole time. They're great. It's a bunch of people that followed Kiefer's group, like when we were there in February of this year, which luckily we got in and were able to do a tour before everything closed down. And they pretty much came to every show, whether it was in Italy or whether it was in Germany or whether it was in England or United Kingdom. And they're great. They're amazing fans. I think the powers that be that I found them, because without fans, I would be doing a Facebook Live to nobody. Because, because it's kind of hard to get. I mean, I just to be frank with you, I love my friends, but I didn't make music to have my friends like tell me how great I was. That just doesn't, that's not why I did this in the first place.
Right. And describe the style of music that you have been part of. Most of what I know and seen of you with the records you've done with John Prine and all of that is sort of that way back you were saying we called it country rock. And,
right, we did.
Or folk music or some of that, Bob Dylan. And now it's called Americana, which
that's the idea. They actually have in the trades, what's left of them, they have an Americana section. Before it was Americana, it was actually called roots rock. That was what they used to call it. Like bands like the Blasters would even be included in it. So even if it was rockabilly rock, that would be roots rock. And I'd say the biggest roots rock band of all time that has made it from the 70s through the 80s to the 90s would be Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. I mean, that's Americana music. I mean, he kept it alive. God bless him.
Yeah, but so you started off on guitar.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking because I'm digging here a little bit because I know you as a piano player,
of course,
accordion.
Yes,
but you also, I didn't know you played mandolin until I saw you pick it up on one of your shows.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the reason I played the mandolin was one of those things. I was doing a radio show with a roots rock guy in the '80s called his name was Tim Scott, and we didn't have a keyboard. And he goes, "Here, play the mandolin," and so he showed me a few chords, and so I played it on the radio. It was KCSN, by the way, and that was many years ago. And ever since then, I just started playing the mandolin because it was a good double. And since I don't like most people like me, usually double like keyboard players, the average keyboard player doubled on saxophone. That was like the thing to do. If you played keyboard, you played saxophone or harmonica. Right. And later it became keyboard and then you became a multi-instrumentalist. You always played the violin. Well, I own a violin and I try to play it about once a year. I pull it out and it sounds so horrible when I play it. Of course, a mandolin and the violin both have the same fingering. So I know all the fingering. That's no problem. And I can even play in tune. But this bowing thing is just, oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah, it takes years to really get that. And I don't have the patience at this point. So yep. I was lucky enough to be able to play mandolin, and accordion kind of came out of the same guy gave me an accordion to play. And once I started playing the accordion, I started getting dates right away. A guy named Marvin Etzioni used to play in a band called, Maria McKee's band. I can't remember the name of them. They were one of the earliest roots rock band. Yes. They did Ways to Be Wicked. What's the name of that band? Okay, I'll think of it in a second. But yeah, so I just started playing the accordion. I never thought I would play the accordion because I was like everybody else, that we got away from the accordion as fast as we could. If we saw one, it's like, no, that's not cool. In fact, I never even played anything like a Farfisa organ or a Vox organ until I have both right now, and I rediscovered how unique they are. In fact, I played a lot of Vox organ when I played with a new version of Iron Butterfly, which is, yeah. So I was like, yes, I know. I know they're still around. So unfortunately the bass player is gone, but I did play with the bass player and the original drummer, and it was great. So at that point I realized how amazing the Farfisa, the Vox organ was. And that's just an education, you never close it down. Same thing with the accordions. They're amazing. All instruments are great. I really, I like every one of them. I wish I could play all of them, but I'm never going to play the violin. It takes too much attention.
So you play on a lot of these record dates. Then when I'm looking at the acts you've played on with John Prine and guys like, you did a Dave Koz album.
I did a Dave Koz record. That was probably the most out of the ordinary thing I did. Dave had done a record before that where he had used a lot of the roots rock or Americana guys in town because he wanted to do something different than the smooth jazz that he was pigeonholed into. Mm-hmm. So he had to get a band together, and that was myself and Bruce Watson, I believe you know him, and a few other, Steve O'Theard and Doug Pettibone. We had the most fun ever on a tour, and we were playing smooth jazz. But I was playing nothing but the B3 and the Wurlitzer and a lot of accordion and 12-string guitar, because he wanted to go really roots rock, as he called it, or Americana. And I'll tell you, after we did about a tour about 8 months, and the crowd was not having it. They would be like looking at us like they were going to kill us. So, and I think after a while he like, okay, I'm going to really, he really tried really hard. He goes, I'm going to convince them that this is cool. And it was cool, but they wanted to hear all the, they used to call it happy jazz, and he does that really well. I mean, he's very successful at it. So God bless him. So what we did was, before the band stopped, in July, we made a Christmas record. And on the Christmas record, I played all the weird instruments. I even had a mellotron. I don't know if your guests know what the mellotron is. It's very ancient sampling. It sounds very spooky. Violins. I played that on it. I played the mini moog. I played the accordion and the mandolins. And we made a great Christmas record. It was just so good. It's called December Feels This Way. But
can we find that on somewhere?
Yeah, I think you can find it all the mediums, as they exist. And we actually wrote a song together. Me and Dave wrote a song called 8 Candles, which was a Hanukkah song. So that's kind of fun too.
Okay.
Yeah. which
I'm trying to imagine his playing in style with all of the instruments you just mentioned.
It was a very unusual sounding instrument. We had a record. I'm sorry, an instrument.
Yeah.
It did sound like an instrument. We had a guy named Tom Panuzio. Tom Panuzio produced it, and and just before that he had produced the Black Sabbath reunion tour record. So he always used to say from Oz to Cause.
Oh.
So he was
Wow.
very, very unusual as well. So he was a good pick. I think the record came out really good. I don't know if anybody really got it, like his people really they probably thought it was a little odd, but I listened to it and I thought it was amazing. And a lot of my friends thought it was amazing too. Cause
what's interesting is a lot of times great things will come out. This is just my take on it. And musicians will sit and listen to it and go, wow, that's amazing. That's great. And then the average listening public will go, what's that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it takes a lot. I've always thought with the average listening public, I remember when I was a kid that I would listen to pop radio. We had a radio station called 93 KHJ with the real Don Steele. And I noticed that they would play the same songs over and over and over again. And there would be songs that I really wouldn't like. But after hearing them about the 10th time, I thought, this song's pretty good. And I realized at that point that no one gets anything. No one gets music. Classical music is the most perfect example unless it is played for them more than once. Because usually something's played for them once and it sounds weird. And the person goes, that's weird. I don't like it. But after about the third time, they go, well, this is kind of cool, actually, after they get used to it, So,
and I'm going to use my daughter as an example.
Yes, good, please.
Just turned 15.
Good age.
And she's into music the way I was, but she's into K-pop.
Oh, that stuff melts her brain. It melts her brain. I had to do an assignment where I had to mimic one of their songs, and just that dancing alone. It's the dancing and the weird disco kind of. I don't know. It's like baby music or something. I mean, I don't mean to insult your daughter, but it really does melt your brain. I think it's got so much sugar on it. It's amazing.
Yeah, they have there is some stuff. If you dig in, there are some different veins of it that actually kind of cool.
Right. I imagine there would be. Of course, there always is.
But still, she's really into it, and it took me a while to appreciate it. But she's played me a few things. I'm like, okay, I can kind of like it.
Well, there's that dude, that older dude with the glasses. He was kind of like the Peter Gabriel of K-pop.
That guy has something like 20 million hits on his Gangnam Style.
Yeah, the Gangnam Style. Yeah, Gangnam Style.
Shoot, man.
I'm a firm believer that anything that becomes super, super popular has some artistic merit to it someplace. It may not be interesting to all, and like you said, there's always some guy or some girl that's doing it really, really cool. Right. And but what you usually hear is the stuff that's just really crappy. You know? It's the stuff for the masses, basically.
The stuff that's really cool, though, that I wanted to ask you about, because all the guys, the names that I think about is you did something with Rod Stewart.
Oh, yes. Unplugged and Seated, yes.
And what were you playing?
I was playing the mandolin and the accordion, because I have a friend of mine, his name's Don Teschner, and he was playing violin and mandolin with him. And so they were going to do this record, or the TV show, which was a very popular TV show in the 90s called Unplugged on MTV. And he wanted to have a really, really huge band. So he asked my friend if he knew of anybody who played mandolin in something else. And he had played in my band that I had a record deal with, the Brothers Figaro, before. And he said, oh, my friend Phil Parlapiano, the guy. And he goes, well, have him come down. And so, I mean, let's say that I grew up listening to Rod Stewart. I grew up listening to Maggie May and hearing the. It was the first time I probably heard a mandolin on a record. Was Maggie May, and so I was thinking, am I going to play Maggie May? And he goes, yeah, of course. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is incredible. So I was pretty nervous. I went down there. I met him, and as luck would have it, they had him sit right in front of me. So he'd look over me on his right shoulder every once in a while, And it'd be really funny because every once in a while, because it was one of the first big rock stars I ever played with, and I'd look at him and I go, "That's Rod Stewart." I can't. It's like he's right there. And so the greatest part was when he goes, "I'm going to have a special one of my friends come down, Ron Wood, right?" So then Ron Wood, he sat on the other side of me. So I was right in the middle of Ron Wood and Rod Stewart, and Ron was playing his solo to Maggie May on the Zumatis guitar, acoustic guitar, and by itself. And it was just, there's Ron Wood. He had a guitar tech, but the guitar tech didn't do much. He basically kept his Guinness pint glass filled all the time. Like whenever it went down, he could fill it up some more. That was great. But the best part of that is I rehearsed for like 3 or 4 days with him, and I kept going to Don. I go, do I have the gig? And I go, because I don't know. He keeps asking you to come back, but we hadn't talked about, finances or anything like that. And so I'm sitting there and I play Maggie May, and Rod looks over at me, and then he looks over at Ron Wood, and he looks at Rod, and he looks like, so. And I know what he was thinking is he good or is he useless? Because that's the way he would talk, right? and so I luckily Ron was like, no, Ron, right, like that. And I was like, oh. And then I had the gig.
and yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was it.
Now you did a lot of John Prine records, and
yes.
When did you get your own Geffen records in the middle of all that? When did that?
No, actually, I got that first. I had been playing with an artist who was on Geffen. It had nothing to do with me getting a record on Geffen, but he had quit the band, and so he was starting another band with Smutty Smith, and the guy from the Crusados had just passed away last year, called the Javelinas, and he was going to play this club called the Molly Malones, but he didn't have a PA, and he knew I had a PA, and he goes, Phil, if you come down and bring your PA, I'll let you and Bill, who is my partner, I'll let you guys open for us. And I go, okay. So we went down to Molly Malone's, and there were about 3 people there, and we opened and we set up the PA. It took all day long, but of course back then I was young and I didn't care about moving stuff, and I did that. Yeah. Now, of course, it would be another thing. But so I went down, waited till the end of the night, got the PA. We'd go over to Jerry's Deli, have a tuna sandwich, me and Bill, we split it, and then we would go home. And after about 2 weeks, we played every Tuesday night. And after about 2 weeks, it kept getting bigger and bigger. And pretty soon, I always looked down, but one day I looked up and it was nothing but celebrities and beautiful models. And I thought, what's this about? And then what happened was they had record companies, because they were well connected. They have record companies come down for them. Well, they would go on so late that the record companies would think that we were the band they were going to see. And so we got courted by about 5 different labels just out of nowhere without even a manager. And Capitol, Nigel Harrison from Blondie was an A&R guy over Capitol. He wanted to sign us, and then another guy, Tom Zutaw over at Geffen Records, wanted to sign us. And so we actually and a manager hustled us, and we got a manager, and then we had a record deal before we even knew what happened. They threw an amazing amount of money at us. For instance, this record cover right here, that record cover, which is great. It looks like the Joshua Tree record. Okay,
right.
That cost more than all my solo records put together. So, but they just threw an incredible amount of money at us, and they wanted us to be a pop band, but we were, as our bass player, the great Kenny Edwards said, we were a skiffle band. So we were a skiffle band. We were like a folk rock band. We wanted to sound like Simon and Garfunkel, because it was two of us. And they put us together with a guy named Pat Moran, who's a producer, and he wanted to make us a big, 90s hit making band. And I understand it, because they're major labels. If you're going to spend, if I could say $350,000 on a record, they want to get some of that money back. But we fooled them, and we didn't make any of the money back. Ha ha ha. So anyway, so after doing that record, there was our manager was connected to one of the girls in the Go-Go's, Kathy Valentine, and she was a friend with this girl named Carlene Carter, who is of the Carter family. She's the people who made up country music, and Grandma Maybelle Carter, that was her grandma, and she was doing a record with Howie Epstein, who was in Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And so I went down to American Studios on Topanga to meet Howie, to do a song on her record. He loved me, had me playing the rest of the record. And then one day he said, there's this guy, his name's John Prine. I'm going to do his record. Are you interested? I'm playing on that record. And I go, hey, yeah. I mean, I had never heard of John. I had heard of John Prine before, but I'd never really listened to his records. I think I'd heard, Angel from Montgomery, just like everybody has. And I went down and heard a song called All the Best, which had the lyrics. I was listening to the lyrics. It was, I guess love is like a Christmas card. You decorate the tree and you throw it in the yard. It decays and dies, and the snowman melts. Yeah, I knew love. That's how love felt. And I thought, wow, that's either really stupid or really deep. I can't figure out which. And then I figured it was really deep. And then I ended up playing on that record that was called The Missing Years, which, Bruce Springsteen was on the record. Bob Dylan used to come and hang out the sessions. I never met him, but he used to hang out the sessions. We all did it on Tom's old 24 track in Howie's house in Beverly Hills. And after that, John asked me really sheepishly, he goes, I don't know if you do this, but I'm going to do some shows. I don't know if you'd like to, go on the road with me. And I'm, hell yeah. Actually, I said, I will if I could bring my partner, Bill, who was in the Brothers Figaro. So it was after. And he goes, what does he play? And I go, guitar. He goes, have him come down. And we did an audition. He goes, okay. And then we went to Nashville to rehearse with another guy named Rolly Sally, who's a great bass player. And we rehearsed in his living room for about a half hour a day, because he would get really bored and you want to go and have some drinks or eat, go get something to eat. And then after about 4 days of rehearsal, we opened up playing a shed for Bonnie Raitt for 20,000 people. It was great. He turned around and he said, before we went out, he goes like, I hope we're ready for this. We didn't even know the songs, but that's how he always was. He would just throw out names of songs. We didn't get a set list together until like maybe after I worked with him for about a year. He'd just like play songs. We just like join in and play. I love that. It was so spontaneous. It was beautiful.
So he just start playing a chord and in a groove, and you just join.
Yeah. I mean, his songs are pretty. The harmonics are pretty simple. So it was just a matter of figuring out, staying out of his way. Mm-hmm. And we knew all the songs anyway by that time. We had listened to his records. But we did a lot of stuff from Sins of Mephisto, which I think you were playing me before. That's one of my favorite. That's where he called me Mr. Squeeze. So listen to music of Mr. Squeeze.
Now, I'm going to play a little bit of that. And where does the accordion comes in the middle of it, or?
It comes in after the first verse, I think.
I'll just play a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's the intro. Love that groove.
From the bills of St. Mary to the Count of Monte Cristo, nothing can stop the sins of Mephisto. Sally used to play with her hula hoops, Now she tells her problems to therapy groups.
It's coming. I know it is.
Staring at a rake, wondering if this marriage was a terrible mistake. I'm sitting on the front steps drinking Orange Crush, wondering if it's possible for me to still blush. Oh yeah. A boy on a bike with corduroy slacks.
I'm fascinated with the groove.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Waits for the whistle on the train to scream so he could close his eyes and begin to
I think it's right here.
Oh yeah.
That was me.
From the bells of St. Mary to the Count of Monte Cristo, nothing can stop, nothing can stop, nothing can stop the sins of Memphis.
Here's my verse.
Hands on his watch, spin slowly around with his mind on a bus that goes all over town. Looking at the babies in the factories, listening to the music of Mr. Squeeze, as if by magic or remote control.
My big solo.
Mist in his soul, Oh yeah. From the bells of St.
All right, so this is
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about that groove. Now, I grew up in Nebraska when I was, with that kind of groove was all the country bands played.
Yeah.
That groove is actually really hard to play.
Yes, it is.
And feel it right.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of I think there was a lot of layering on that. Joe Ramirza played the drums on that, and it was a combination of real drums. And back then, since it was the end of the 80s, there was a little bit of the artificial drums, because that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Alesis is what it was called, the Alesis HR-16. And but what also makes a groove is the great guitar playing. I think mandolin playing. I think it might have been David Lindley played on that. John Jorgensen was one of the guys who played on those records. Of course, Ben Montench played all the organs, the keyboards, and he was monumental in just being able to be around him and watch him play the B3. It kind of influenced my playing like exponentially. I really learned how to play the organ from watching Ben Mont.
What instrument do you play the most of? Keyboards, accordion, mandolin? Which one do you find yourself playing the most on gigs?
On gigs, accordion, because it's so unique, and I'm able to play the accordion in a way that doesn't sound like polkas. So people like that. It gives it a.
You got something you can just pick up and just give me a what you're talking about?
Well, see, where most guys would be playing like, oh, not that. Oh, stop it. There it is. Sorry about that. Most guys are doing the polka thing is like, I can do that if I need to. Like, somebody says, hey, sound like a accordion player. But what I would do mostly is just play these really nice language. And it gives a nice, like, almost a pump organ sound without being a pump organ. And it blends really, really super well with the Hammond B3, which is what Ben Mont would play. So we did almost everything on the record. We did a combination of the organ and the accordion together. So I got called a lot for the accordion, and I usually play it mostly, unless every once in a while there are some producers I know they're accordion haters, and they don't care what it sounds like. They're not gonna have it on their record. So I know they just don't know, but it's I work with that, but then that's why I kept the keyboards up. I started out on the keyboards. Actually, you asked me a question. I started on the guitar, but that was just as when I was a kid. And then when I realized that I'd get more work playing the keyboards because there's less keyboard players than there are guitar players, I switched over to the keyboards and I did get a lot more work. And, I did all the usual stuff. The first real the first real thing I did was in '83. I played with Joan Baez, and that was pretty exciting.
What
She
was that your first gig? Like kind of the the name and
yes.
what was I just want to know what that experience was like.
I will tell you what her experience is like. She I don't want to date myself, but she was 40 years old, and I remember thinking, wow, she's so old, right? And but she wasn't. She was great. She used to since I was a young guy, she definitely did the mother thing with me. I used to hang out with her. She would like hold me in her arms and tell me everything was great and I was great and just go out there and don't be scared. Because every once in a while I'd be like, wow, I haven't played in front of 6,000 people before. She'd go, oh, no, it's nothing. It's nothing, And she did say one really funny thing. She goes, because you really remind me of Bobby. Of course, Bob Dylan. It's like, wow, I remind you of Bobby. What, you mean like I'm artistic? And I'm like, wow, it's just, yeah. And she said 2 ways. She goes, one, you don't give a damn of what you look like. And 2, you shake a hand like a wet fish. Like it took me years to realize that she was just giving me a joke. She was giving me a rib. So, but she was really funny, and she was so amazing, and she was such a great singer. She was a great songwriter, a song stylist, of course. The Bob Dylan songs. Love is just a 4-letter word. I covered it on one of my shows, and I just realized how great it was. And then I realized what a great song she wrote in Diamonds and Rust, which is an amazingly well-written song. And she wasn't even well known as a songwriter. So I really enjoyed my time with her. But the problem was that I was such a friend with her, and it was the first time I'd ever been with someone famous. So I used to write her letters because I had her address, and I write her letters, and I never got replies back. And so I was thinking, why don't I get a reply back? And then one time she was over at Capitol Records, and I was at Capitol Records, like trying to get a record deal. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to go visit Joan. And so I went down to the studio, and I told the person at the front gate, I go, it's Phil Parlapiano for Joan Baez. And he goes, all right. And so it takes a little while. I'm waiting. Finally, she comes out, and she goes, I just figured out who you are. Oh, yeah. How you doing? I thought, oh, okay. So that's how it is. Welcome to Hollywood.
I got to the first time I was in LA area, and I was talking to somebody at a place like the Fox and Hound or
all right,
whatever it is, and somebody's talking to me, and then as you're talking, they start looking the other way.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm thinking, oh, I guess they don't really care. They're just passing time until somebody they see important come in. I didn't really understand what that was, but I think
that's an unfortunate problem with living in Los Angeles, and I apologize for that. I grew up here, so I don't really notice it. But everybody who comes from out of town goes, "What's with all the people here? They're like vapid." And I go, "What are you talking about?" And then I started to notice that, and I go, "Oh, that's what you're talking about." Oh, I'm just used to that,
Well, and here's the other thing that I get a lot. Boy, that guy sure drops a lot of names. Well, no, well, what else are you supposed to when you work with Joan Baez? Well, I was doing this gig with Joan Baez, and
yeah,
that's just what you kind of need to do that to qualify yourself.
Oh yeah,
sometimes.
Most definitely you do. I remember one time I went into there was a place on Ventura called not La Vivi. It was the other place on, I can't remember the name of it was. It's gone now, but it was where a lot of smooth jazz guys went and played. And
it wasn't Cafe Cordial.
That is exactly what it was. Okay. Cafe Cordial. And so I was watching somebody play, and there was a bass player who was pretty good. And I played with Dave Koz, but I never talked that I played with Dave Koz or who. I don't play that game, maybe to my detriment. But I went up to the bass player after he played, and I go, dude, that was really good. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, thanks. Good. And you are, I go, Phil Parlapiano. He goes like, and you play with, I go, yeah, okay. Nobody you've ever heard of. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right.
Like, I wanted to hit that guy.
You
Like,
know,
really?
I got to tell you one story because
Please.
I went to hear a drummer and he was playing with Adam Cohen, little jazz gig. And do you know Adam Cohen, bass player? Maybe he's a jazz or upright guy.
Okay.
Anyway, the drummer is really good. And I said, hey, I'm new drummer in town. And he goes, yeah, I study with Peter Erskine. And then,
Ooh, nice.
and so he said, well, if you go see Peter, tell him I said hello. So I went to see Peter and I said, oh, hi. So and so said, and he did that. He goes, and what's the guy's name? I couldn't remember the name. And he goes, oh, okay. And just kind of like,
blew you off.
Yeah.
I know. I did that when go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, he wasn't rude or anything about it, but it was just, it's the shuffle,
I know it's more prevalent in the jazz field than it is in any other field. I don't know whether, I'm not going to say that they have attitudes, but they seem to have an attitude. And I remember I worked once a few gigs with a guy, I can't remember his name. He's a drummer, blonde guy, used to play with Frank Zappa in the One Size Fits All. I think it was right after One Size Fits All. It might have been Ralph Humphrey. Is that who it is?
I had him on my show.
Yes, he's amazing. And I played a show at his, and I was excited because I'm a big Zappa fan, so but I didn't say anything, right? So then I saw him later over at Cafe Accordion. And I go, Ralph, it's me, Phil, and he totally didn't know who I was. Like I felt like an idiot. Like, jeez.
Well, I get it, and I've told this story before, but I understand where they're coming from.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
I mean, how many times are you playing on a gig and somebody comes up and starts talking to you like you should know?
Yes.
And you don't. And what do you say? I blew off Russ Kunkel without knowing who. I had no idea it was Russ Kunkel until it was too late.
We were at a gig. Brother Springer was playing a gig, and both Rosanna Arquette and Jackson Brown were there. And so they came backstage, and Jackson was talking to my drummer saying, oh, I really like your drumming. Sometimes I need people, I'd like to know who you are. And so my drummer actually said, oh, great. He goes, what's your name? And all the rest of us are like, oh man, how could you not recognize Jackson Brown? Okay. and the same day, the same night, I was being chatted up by this really, really pretty girl. And I was going, well, my record's on Geffen. He goes, well, maybe I can get Peter, my boyfriend, to get it for me. Right. And I go, okay. And afterwards, like, do you know who that was? Rosanna Arquette. Right. And I go, really? I thought she was really attractive. I thought she was picking up on me. And her boyfriend, Peter, of course, was Peter Gabriel. Right. Like, so, yeah.
Right. I mean, so it's hard to get upset with somebody that does it to me when I've done it too without realizing.
Exactly.
Well, and I want to ask you what it was like to work on the thing that I saw you with the picture with Neil Young.
Oh yes.
And what was that like?
I wish I had played with Neil Young. He actually came to a show that they said they thought it was the Bridge concert. It was where they have the Bridge concert. I can't remember. That's called Woodlake or something like that. I can't remember the name of it.
Up north in the Bay Area?
Yes. What's that called? It's where that promoter was going when he died in his helicopter.
I'm not.
Yeah. See, this is great. Yeah. Lots of facts here. Anyway. So we were playing a double bill. That was on the same tour, but we were playing with Bonnie Raitt, and he came to see the show. And so we're like, my friend Bill, who's on the other side, he goes, it's Neil Young. oh my God, it's Neil Young. We're like all trying to contain ourselves. We're like, we got to get a picture of Neil Young. So we got John, Neil, like, let's get a picture together. It's like, okay. And that we got that picture together.
Oh,
But I never got to play with him though.
oh, but the style, that style of music and all of the instruments you play would fit well in his music.
Oh, I know. My friend Rick, the bass player, played with him for many years, but I never got to. He always had that great keyboard player play Wurlitzer with him, who, of course, I can't remember his name either. Also a very good songwriter. And I'll think of it in a second.
Yeah.
But
you know how many times I've forgotten things when I was trying to think of something, and it gets easier to forget the older I get.
Yeah, actually, it's a syndrome, I think, that you actually forget people's names first. It's part of it,
Yeah.
But I found that if I worked on memorizing music, this was one of the little secrets. I was memorizing lots of music, and then I was trying to memorize times tables. Don't ask me why, but the more and more you try to memorize things, the easier it gets to memorize things. You actually do remember things better. You're working your brain is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a little tip for you people who are over 35 years old, which I just turned 36.
Yeah. Well, that was something we were also talking about
age,
the record, the recording business. And are you still writing songs? Are you doing a lot of writing or no?
Well, you know what? I do a lot of writing for hire, especially instrumental stuff. I work for a gaming company, and they usually have me come up with a theme and then some sound effects. So I'm learning how to do sound effects, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. And then there's also these things called library companies, which they basically put in songs in TV shows, especially cable TV shows. If you ever watch a cable TV show, you'll notice that there are probably in a minute, there are about 20 different tunes that go on depending on what the scene is. And so I'm in every single Animal Planet show there is. I think
Really?
every single one. I have never heard myself ever, but I have compositions in every single one. And usually I'm called because I do the mandolin. And if you listen to background music, which I do, and commercials, there's a lot of mandolin and ukulele and a lot of music now, which thank God for my career. That and some accordion. So I'm known as the mandolin and accordion guy. So I don't get all of it. In fact, when I hear accordion and I go, who is that? Who is that?
I think I only know one guy that plays accordion. That's Mark Levang, and he's not really an accordion player. Mark Levang, the keyboard player.
The name sounds really familiar. I know a few of the accordion players. Actually, see what the funny thing is, because we play accordion, we also get called for all the commercials. Like they always love to put an accordion player in a commercial to make it like usually as the funny, And so I go down there and I see all my friends, like every single accordion player I ever work with. I do a thing over at Disney too, where we have a klezmer band, and it's the same thing. We have believe it or not, there's a klezmer band at Christmas time at Disney. Actually, not Disney, but the other place, California Adventure. And the same thing. It's like every single accordion player in town is on the sub list for this band. So I see them all.
That must not be too long of a list.
Luckily, it's about 10 people. It's about 10. The guy, Frank Morocco, who was a real star, he played on all the stuff, and he was like 85 years old, and he finally died. And then there's another guy who played on The Godfather and a few other things too, and he's gone too. So some friends I know actually picked up his work. I've picked up a little bit of his work, but I wasn't as well connected as some of the people that like picked up all the work, because as you know, being in this business, it is about, who you know. I hate to say it that way.
It really is. And this is one thing that everybody that I know or want to talk to is only a phone call away from somebody I know. However, taking that step is really hard to get that one person to get in touch with one person. So it's like you've got to let them know that somebody they know.
Oh yeah. Talk about qualifying. I mean, it's the same thing when people for instance, I saw that Bruce did your show. Otherwise, my wife was like, "Who is this guy?" I was like, "No, he's cool." Like, but every time I get a call, like I send it to my wife, and if it's somebody I don't know where they came from, my wife's like, "You're not doing that show. You're not doing that show."
Yeah.
So I only will do things if I'm recommended by somebody, because it's, there's too many easy opportunities to be stiffed. I hate to say it that way, because we don't have, if I could talk about the musicians, Local 47, which is totally useless most of the time. And they really are two people like gig workers like myself. I
Right.
mean, the only thing is they took a lot of credit for getting, unemployment for gig workers, but I don't think they really had that much to do with it. They had more to do with AB5, which is,
Right.
I don't know if, yeah, which is a horrible thing for gig workers, saying
Right.
that we have to pay all these extra taxes that we never had to work before, or get incorporated, which literally costs at least $800 a year more to do.
Right.
So I love my union. I wish they worked for me, but they don't. They don't work. They work only for the people that are in TV and the old school guys. They really do. I wish it would stop, but if you're watching, Mr. Union people, sorry, that's the way it works.
I have two things,
Yes.
questions, because you do a lot of TV work where you're actually on camera.
Yes.
And
right.
you play stuff. So that actually are you a SAG?
Yes.
Do you have a SAG card to do that?
Yeah.
That pays better, right?
Oh man, majorly. I want to tell you a little story about a show I did that will remain unnamed. There was a call I got from some people, and they go, "We want you to play this TV show. It's just, working a little bit, and it's going to pay $500 and $100 for the rehearsal the day before." And I go, "Well, can it go through the union?" It's like, "Yeah, it could go through the musicians union, but that would be like actually less." So they settled it for more. And I go, "Well, that doesn't sound right, but okay, I'll go do it." And then I went down to the show, and I saw that the violin player, who was a professional actress before she was a violinist, I saw her signing a SAG contract. I go, "You're signing a SAG contract?" He goes, "Yeah, this is SAG." I go, "It wasn't for me." And so I talked to the manager, and I go, "I'm SAG." He goes, "Oh, we'll go over to the trailer and sign up." And I go, "Oh yeah, I will." So I signed up. I literally ran over the trailer so that they didn't close. I signed up for the SAG payment, and instead of that $500 plus another $75 for rehearsal, I would have gotten, I have already made over $2,800.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you were on screen.
Because I was on screen and I also played. So and they bump it up, and I sang. So when you sing, you're like an actor. If you just play, they don't pay you SAG.
Oh, you got to say something, have words.
Right, words, exactly. Or sing, yeah. So, so that was what I tell all my friends. So I'm a really happy member of SAG. I'm a happy member of Local 47, in case you guys are watching. They already hate me anyway, so.
Well, the other thing that you said is one of the reasons why I started this show when the pandemic hit and all of my gigs just dropped like dominoes, and my my income has disappeared, none.
Right.
And I heard all this talk about gigging workers, and then a couple of weeks into it, there's no more talk about gigging workers. As a matter of fact, has anybody talked about gigging workers for the last several months? And many of the folks that I know and have been working with, and where's our work? When is it going to come back? There are hearing of things, but not like it was. And,
I think the future is going to be way different. I mean, face it. I mean, I played clubs. I prefer to go on tour where, and not because of it's, being taken care of and having so much separate stuff, but only because when you're on tour, the music and your sound is being put out there in a way that is presentable. Whereas a lot of times in clubs, I mean, how many times they mic the drums? Like,
never.
Sometimes they'll give you a kick mic if you're lucky, So basically, if you ever go to see live music in clubs, a lot of times it sounds pretty underwhelming, especially the drums. Drums without amplification they don't sound really like great. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And keyboards, if they're too quiet in the mix, they just sound like you're thinking, why is that guy here? You know, he looks like he's playing, but he's not playing. I don't hear anything. And so I think that a lot of the clubs have gotten to a point, and plus, I played a few clubs that were nameless that basically they said, yeah, I know we're paying you $40 to come in here, but we had these kids come in. They said they'd do this for free. So will you guys do it for free? I'm like, no, we're not going to do it for free. And they go, well, we really have to rethink this. And I want to go, and if they ever come back to me and go, hey, you know, we're like not doing well ever since the pandemic. Can you help us out? And I want to go, yeah, like you really helped us out. Because there are about a handful of club owners that really love music. And that's usually what it is. Club owners who love music use their musicians themselves. And they understand that the guys have to get paid and their time is worth something.
Right. And the one club that I'm thinking about right now that is having, you know, they're struggling to stay open is the Baked Potato.
Right. Of course. Yes.
You know,
yes.
And that's the one club that no musician wants to see go down. Just
no,
because,
of course not.
The history there.
Yeah. Major history. I used to go there and see, you know, Jeff Porcaro and all those guys play, you know, Peter Erskine, you know, all those guys. Yeah.
It's a great player.
Yeah. Amazing. And yeah, I love him. I used to go see him with the Wayne Johnson trio. Do you remember them?
Wayne Johnson, yes.
Yes.
Hey, what with Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, Flim Johnson, who plays with James Taylor now, I believe.
Right.
Yes.
And he just played with the GAD band at the Baked Potato, did the stream thing. But let me ask you about that. Did Wayne Johnson Trio used to have this, the drummer, I think, was Bob Berg.
Okay, yes.
Jimmy Johnson. And the three of those guys played at a little divey restaurant in Venice Beach.
Yes, that's where I saw them. Yes.
Right, like on Sundays or something.
The Hideaway or something like that. Yeah, it was Sunday and no one would be there.
No.
And I say Peter Erskine because when I went, Peter Erskine was always subbing.
Okay.
So we used to go, you know, I was a big, what they used to call progressive jazz or new jazz or, you know, prog jazz, or I don't know what they used to call it. Yeah. And, you know, Chick Corea and Weather Report. And I used to be a big fan of those. And then, you know, when I was growing up, that was, you know, it was very happening. So to go in and see someone like Wayne and Flem and Peter Erskine, you know, who played Weather Report. Come on, you know, there he was playing to nobody. It was me and my friends, you know, like ridiculous.
And did you go to Dante's? Dante's was a club.
Yes. Right before it closed. Yeah.
I saw Bunny Brunel and Tom Breckline there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, like, come on.
You see them all. You see these like amazing people you only heard on records. There was another place, the Flying Jib was another place on Ventura. Yeah, and they used to have a lot of those bands play.
See,
and the Come Back In, I think in Santa Monica. I think is that what it's called? I can't remember.
I don't know, but the Lighthouse used to do stuff too, but not so much. So you grew up with all that and went around to see that. And what's really sad is that a lot of that is gone.
Oh yeah, it's gone. And it's like, but at the same time, it's the same reason that prog rock, you know, like when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, bands like Yes and Genesis and ELP, you know, they had their time. That was the time. It was a time. And even the progressive jazz thing, it was a time because people hadn't, you know, when Herbie Hancock did the Headhunters, you'd never heard that before. This was incredible. What is this music? It was like weird. I don't know what this music is. It had no, you know, Billy Cobham. But then after it had been done, then it was just like guys repeating something that someone else had done. So it's the same thing with prog rock, you know, like Genesis. If you hear a band now that sounds like Genesis, you go, God, you know, visit the 70s much, you know? I mean, it's kind of like a music that's kind of in its time. That's one of the reasons why I got out of that and got into Americana, because Americana is like, the idea was it's timeless. It was just guys playing instruments. It didn't matter whether it was a Yamaha DX7 keyboard or a D50 or, you know, an emulator. It's an accordion. An accordion's the same whether it was like in the 1800s or whether it's 2020. It's the same instrument, you know, so it's kind of timeless.
Well, it is. And the kind of music that you're doing on your show on the weekends, it is songs that they're songs, You know,
Yes.
they're old. Songs aren't written like that anymore.
Well, a lot of times, I think what happened was people started, and I've done it. I've made the mistake myself. They started using the recording medium as their song palette. So they go, "Oh, this got a good groove. I'll start from this groove," and then they just like wrote a song around the groove rather than having a song and then putting a groove to it. You know,
Mm.
I mean, most groovy songs a lot of times were written on acoustic guitar, and you know, never even knew that until you hear the demos and you go, oh my God, it just sounds nothing like it. How could that have, that's not even a funk song. And the funk song was done on, you know, a guy with a piano and just playing block chords, because
Right.
it took a producer and an arranger to kind of go, okay, how are we going to make this more danceable? Because at the end of the day, even with Americana, that's one of the things that white Americana artists kind of neglect, the fact that at the end of the day, the average person wants to dance to music.
Mm.
And so, and if it's a good song that has a good message, that much the better. But really what they want to do is dance. So that's when you look at the top 40 now and you go, oh my gosh, every song on here is a dance song, and usually really bad dance songs, because they don't know how to do it right anymore, because it's already been done, I think. You know, I mean, a few artists stick out, you know, Beyonce or whatever, with a good dance song. But for the most part, it's just copying. You know, it's like when disco came out, there was like Donna Summer, and then there were 1,000 other people that sounded like a crappy Donna Summer. You know,
Right.
there's always imitators, because that's just the way it is. But the innovators are far and few between, and they're blessed no matter what kind of style it is. I really do believe that.
You know,
Yeah.
there are a couple of kids that are innovators. Bruno Mars was kind of,
I liked him. Yeah, I
you
like him a
know,
lot.
he brought an old style back, but
Very,
clever and, you know, creative. And the only person lately that really is, you know, who I really like Taylor Swift's songwriting.
yeah. I haven't really, I've dealt with, you know, besides the pops, everybody pop songs, I have listened to some of it. And yeah, I mean, she's got some, once again, you can't become that huge without having some substance. You can kind of get a one hit wonder. That's what one hit wonder is. It's an accident. I've worked with some of those guys, and unfortunately, they felt like they were being discovered as the geniuses they were. And in reality, it was just a really one good song, and the rest was not up to that level.
Right.
And so somebody who comes out and they have that one good song, if they can back it up and have a career, that usually means that they have something going on. They really do have something going on. Whether it's something I like or not is another question. You know, I have a whole different philosophy. As being a musician, I don't even listen to pop music. I listen to jazz that I haven't heard of. Like, you know, like I listen to all of Fats Waller. I'm still on his stuff, and Art Tatum, and then classical music, and then EDM, only because it appeals to. When I was growing up, I loved Eno and I loved electronic music, and to me, the EDM and a lot of the dance music is that stuff kind of updated and made for the masses, and I appreciate it. I like electronic sounds. I like the synthesizer. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. So someone said, "Can you play a little something?" But I want to say, if you played something before we closed, what do you think? Mandolin, guitar, accordion? What?
Well,
Something?
I think maybe I'll play the mandolin, because the accordion's too loud on these things.
Yeah.
I've noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I can do that. Let me go get it now. Okay.
Okay.
Hang on for a second.
Sure. And then we'll have a dance party. While he's off, he can't hear me talking. Everybody stand up and dance while he's playing his mandolin. Oh,
I gotta put my headphones back on.
yeah,
My earplugs. Okay, there's one. This is so high tech. Who'd have thought we're doing this?
Right, with an iPhone.
Yeah, you know, I think in the future more people will be doing this sort of thing, even when clubs open up again, because you were saying what I think is going to happen. I think that half the clubs that were open are going to fold, because they were just on their last legs anyway.
Right.
You know, and the ones that maintain are going to be, it's going to be way different. There's going to be not as many people for at least a while.
Right.
you know? And I hate to say it, but after this pandemic is over and we have a cure for the virus, there's no telling that there won't be another one on its heels, you
Sure.
know? This
Sure.
may be what we're looking at, you know? And so we got to think of different ways. And somebody said, "Oh God, I can't wait till it gets back to normal." And to which I replied, and someone had written a great quote saying the normal wasn't that great. So we're thinking that maybe the new normal is going to be a more benevolent society, maybe one where you can go on a plane and you don't catch a cold every time you get off a plane because the air is so bad, right?
Yeah.
Now they have to clean those filters. Like, wow, newsflash, why didn't you do that before? You know?
That,
It
I mean, come on, that's too much work.
is too much work. But see, now that everybody's forced to do work, they're forced. Now businesses are going to be forced to be really, really, really good at what they do, or else they won't survive. I mean, this is maybe just be capitalism at its finest. Is only the strong survive. You know?
Well, unfortunately, before you start playing,
Yes.
I think there is a wide swath of people, that are like the best at the game and people wanting to get in it, like businesses. Let just a quick example: Broadway. Now they're closed down for a year. The old guys that have been there forever are just going, "I'm going to retire."
Right. Exactly.
Then there's as it comes back, there's going to be a few of the best that will get some of the gigs, but there's going to be a whole bunch of them that are just never going to be able to do it.
Yeah, and that's sad, and it's going to happen in the music business too. And I said, I'm hoping I'm not a casualty. I don't think I will be because I this is all I do. You know, I mean, I've had lots of opportunities. I've had lots of friends who fell by the wayside after it got too hard. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but ever since I was a little kid, ever since I was 4 years old and saw the organ player play a Hammond over it in my church, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. In fact, I wanted to play the organ. And so, and I knew that nothing was going to stop me, even though everybody's like, well, music's really hard and it's who you know. And I knew nobody, I didn't have famous dad that worked in, like, I hate to say it. One of the greatest things that came out of the Valley was Toto,
Right.
but all those guys had dads that were connected. All of them,
True. That's
you
true.
know? So, it's like, well, and they were great. I mean, they're, virtuosos, but they were very well connected. I was not connected whatsoever. So I knew that I was going to have to figure out a way. And it's the same thing now. If all my avenues close, I'm just going to have to figure out another way to make music. I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, I just let the muse go through me. I let something, come from above, which is what I believe everything is anyway.
Sure.
And not God. I'm going to talk about God.
Well, after watching a couple of your shows that you do on the weekends, you have a lot of people tune in, and I think there's a real avenue for you, and there's a lot of people trying to live stream and do these sorts of things. I'm trying to do something a little different, a little
Right.
more informal, and people get to find out more about what you're like as a person, and different than just playing a song and
Right. Saying, talking about the song or whatever. Yeah.
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 So
No, but you have a good voice. That's the appeal there too. Your voice is has good resonance.
it's not me, it's fake. I'm going through filters that are making it sound like no.
I love
uh,
that.
so we've been on over an hour. I
Oh
don't
my gosh.
Jeez, it's a good thing that there's no union saying we got to pay overtime.
I know, right? Crazy.
So anybody who's been tuning in, or what I've noticed is a lot of people watch this later, and what I do is I upload it to my YouTube channel, and then that gets more views too. So I want to make sure I've had your website, parlapiano.com.
Right.
It's been up here listed. So if people want to watch or see what you're doing, can they find you through your website?
I think the best they can contact me through the website. I think the best way is through my Facebook, which is it's just phil.parlapiano. That's it,
Okay.
Yeah. And because I do all my stuff there. I even have a band page, but I just do everything through my personal page. I don't know why. People have told me to do it through my band page. I haven't done it.
And the band page is Brothers Figueroa.
Figaro. No, the
Fig-
band page is Mr. Squeeze and the Medicine Man.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Squeeze.
Yeah.
So, and for people who may not know, that's a squeeze box, is what the accordion is called.
Yes, Mr. Squeeze Box.
How did that name come about? Squeeze box. Any idea?
Probably because somebody was squeezing it. I think it also refers to a woman too. It's like
Yeah.
your main squeeze. Other woman or man, your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, whatever.
So, I'm going to take us out with you playing this song, and at the end of the song, I'll close the show and thank you for spending some time with me, Phil. I really appreciate it.
Good. Okay, I'm going to play a song.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Play a song. It's from this record. It's called. I'm covering up the title. Pianoforte is the name of the record.
Okay.
It's my second solo record. The song's called Menthol Cigarette. I don't smoke, but this is about smoking.
Okay.
Well, it's 20 past noon when I stop by the Red Room to get myself a drink at the edge of the bar. But they all look the same when you're 1 inch away, and they turn the lights way down low. Turn the lights way down low, so I can't see anymore. I'm here trying to forget with a menthol cigarette. Over and over and over again. Beautiful women, the weakness of men. Over and over and over again. And I'd quit, but I'm not a quitter. It's the oldest profession that keeps a man breathing. The smell of tobacco is sweet as your smile. But they all go up in smoke rings, and they all turn to ashes, leave you there wondering why. No, turn the lights way down low, so I can't see anymore. I'm here, I'm trying to forget with a menthol cigarette. A menthol cigarette. No, over and over and over again. All beautiful women, the weakness of men. Over and over and over again. Cigars and whiskey and the company of men. Over and over and over again. And I'd quit, but I'm not a quitter. Menthol cigarette.